Well, we're going to have a terrific Life, Liberty, and Levin Saturday and Sunday. I'll talk more about that a little bit later, but make sure you set your DVR or your recorder of some sort. 8 p.m. Eastern Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern Sunday. First of all, the real John Kelly. I was watching our friends at Fox, and I was watching, I can't even remember. Whatever, the media gentleman, he said, look, this guy's a 4-star general. He lost his son, who was a pilot. That's all true. He was a great soldier. But he was a lousy chief of staff. And those things do happen. Howie is his name. Howie Kurtz, that's right. Howie Kurtz, a long time ago, used to work for the Washington Post. And I worked for Attorney General Meese in the Reagan administration. Back then, he was very, very liberal. These days, though, I have to say he's much more even-handed. But I don't think he got this one right. I don't think, and I think the left out there is really full of crap. They used to attack this guy, John Kelly, when he was Secretary of DHS. Kamala Harris attacked him, said she didn't believe a word that he was saying in public testimony. He was called all kinds of names. But now, of course, they love him like they do Liz Cheney and all the rest of the reprobates. They're generals and they're generals. This general couldn't settle in as chief of staff. Here's what a dear friend of mine wrote, who was on the White House staff and experienced the chief of staff. He said, the irony of John Kelly claiming Trump was dictatorial is almost too rich to digest. He personified a Napoleon complex and all its excesses. He daily had to approve guests to the Navy mess, approved or denied requests of staff to use White House exercise facilities, insisted on signing off on all newspaper and magazine subscriptions, and demanded a daily summary of all websites visited by senior personnel. He was an out-of-control, obsessive control freak, terribly insecure, past the point of paranoia, and after quickly spending his political capital with the boss, that is President Trump, went on incessant jihads to terminate all those he thought too close to the president that he could get away with. He refused to share phone logs with the president if they contained names he didn't want him speaking to. It was endless. There was a time when he physically pushed past Ivanka, which was witnessed by several people. Ask anyone, Mark. Ask anyone, Mark. And here is that piece. Just the beginning. Jared Kushner alleges chief of staff shoved Ivanka Trump at the White House, Washington Post. In a forthcoming memoir, Donald Trump's son-in-law and former presidential advisor portrays Kelly as having a bullying Jekyll and Hyde demeanor. Kushner alleges that former President Donald Trump's second chief of staff, John Kelly, was viewed within the White House as a bully with a Jekyll and Hyde demeanor who once shoved his wife, Ivanka Trump, out of his way. After a volatile Oval Office meeting, Kelly denies the allegation, and yet my friend says there were multiple witnesses to it. One day, he just marched out of a contentious meeting in the Oval Office. Kushner writes, Ivanka was walking down the main hallway in the West Wing when she passed him. Unaware of his heated state of mind, she said, "Hello, Chief." Kelly shoved her out of the way and stormed by. She wasn't hurt. She didn't make a big deal of the altercation, but in his rage, Kelly had shown his true character. He says, and about an hour later, Kelly visited Ivanka's second-floor West Wing office to offer what he describes as a meek apology, which she accepted. There you go. But Kelly doesn't recall any of that. I don't recall that, actually. Did that actually happen? Yeah, it did actually happen. And there's more. The Daily Wire has a piece about how Kelly was kind of on a jihad against Trump. He tried to get Nikki Haley at one point to join in with him. She would not. And other staffers as well. So there was a ton of leaking that was taking place, a ton of attempts to undermine the commander-in-chief Trump. Very ungeneral-like. And there are other military men. I saw General Tata yesterday on Fox, who was appalled by what Kelly was doing. Of course, the timing of it is quite remarkable. His interview with the radical media that's trying to take Trump out. Terrible. But he's not running for anything. He's just running his mouth. There's Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris doesn't know why she's running for president. other than she's an egomaniac who wants power. They talk about her word salads. She's got salad for a brain. Now, don't get me wrong. She is a Marxist Islamist revolutionary. She wants to destroy the Constitution, the independence of the Supreme Court. She wants to get rid of the filibuster rule so they can impose whatever law that they can, even with a simple majority, which makes it almost impossible to repeal it. She wants 4 more Democrats by giving Puerto Rico and D.C. statehood. Statehood. And she wants to go around the Constitution without amending it, just like she does with so-called student loan forgiveness in violation of the Supreme Court. They want to pass S1, the big voting bill that would destroy all state voting rules, impose basically California's voting rules, which California used to maintain a supermajority that can never be defeated. And that's what they want to do. They want the rules to change so we go through Potemkin pretend elections that they cannot lose. They oppose free speech in the First Amendment. They've been attacking it relentlessly. They oppose freedom of association if the people associating they disagree with. If they're neo-Nazis in the streets on our college campuses, Hamas, Hezbollah, Muslim Brotherhood supporters, they're free to roam. They're free to chase Jews and beat them. They're free to burn the American flag. Why not? But when it comes to old ladies, grandmothers protesting at abortion clinics, they throw them in prison for 2 or 3 years. When it comes to mothers of little kids, they throw them in prison for 2 or 3 years. And, of course, they desperately want Kamala Harris to win. Listen to me, please, because they want to put Donald Trump in prison. You need to understand this election is about everything you believe in being replaced with everything you fear and that threatens you. And if they win, they will put Donald Trump in prison. They've got it set up with an Obama judge in Washington, D.C., who also doesn't believe in the Constitution or due process and has turned the entire procedures, criminal procedures, on their head to accommodate an unconstitutional rogue prosecutor in violation of the Appointments Clause. They don't believe in democracy. They believe in mobocracy. Mobocracy and the iron fist of the centralized government. When it comes to prices, she doesn't say prices of food. Here's what we'll do. I mean, I tell you this off the top of my head. We're going to have the Agriculture Department look at the regulations that we impose on farmers, on ranchers, on truckers, on packaging companies, on grocery stores, on restaurants. And we're going to see if we can eliminate regulations or at least streamline them so the federal government isn't getting in the way of lower food prices. We're going to get spending under control. This deficit spending is what creates inflation. Inflation is what drives up the price of everything, including the basics: food, clothing, energy, housing. But she'll say none of it because she doesn't believe in any of it. And she's too stupid to understand how the economic system works. So what does she say? We're going to do something different. We're going to have a gouging commission of sorts, basically wage and price controls. She's running for president of the wrong country. She should be running for Cuba, Venezuela, Nicaragua, and these other countries where they do that all the time. And the people don't eat. If we have to rely on Kamala Harris and the federal government to eat, we will starve to death. So immediately, the millions of people who are involved in growing and supplying us our food, they're bad people. They're driving up the cost purposely. They're trying to rip you off. They're gouging you. Rather than what is the federal government doing to drive up prices and inflation? And it's amazing, all these greedy people, from the small family farmer all the way to the small corner grocery store, we're trying to rip you off by increasing your prices. It's amazing how their mindset changed on election day 2020. Because during the 4 years of Trump, we didn't have this problem. We didn't have inflation. We didn't have grocery prices through the roof. We didn't have energy prices through the roof. And God forbid, if they look in the mirror, Kamala Harris and the rest of them, their policies have done this. They've created economic dislocation. And you're going to have brownouts and blackouts and shortages of energy. Why? They keep pushing electricity, but we don't produce enough electricity. Why? Because we need coal, oil and gas and nuclear power to create electricity. You don't create it with solar power. fracking. As she's been vice president of the United States, there's not been a single new fracking lease or license issued. Not one. But don't worry, she supports it when she doesn't. She hates the Constitution. She will use the rule of law to imprison her opponents, like Bannon's still sitting in prison for no reason whatsoever. But they want Trump in prison, desperately. They want to send a signal to all of you, the tens of millions of you, that you cross them and you defy them, it will cost you your freedom. Every lousy thing she spews, she's projecting. She's projecting. Terrible. When we come back, I want you to hear some of what she said. She is sophomoric. She's dim-witted. When it comes to really studying the issue, she's lazy. Whether it's hurricanes, or whether it's the border, or whether it's prices or anything else. And there she is campaigning. Barely. There's Obama. Obama leaves one of his many 5 estates and mansions after he's done trashing young black men. They bring in Springsteen. I never liked that guy. I don't know what people are hearing him. He always sounds like he has, marbles in his throat. But anyway, there he is. Oh, they bring in all their millionaire and billionaire buddies. You might say, well, Elon Musk is a billionaire. There's no question. But he does things to the average American. Oprah Winfrey doesn't. None of these other Hollywood billionaires and millionaires do.